Hey, how's it going? This is Scotty. Hey, one of the things that I really got me into working on BMW motorcycles when I first got my first bike was the documentation. I just love the documentation that is provided by BMW. Um, when I first got my first Slash 2, I got this factory manual. Maybe not this particular factory manual because I have a couple copies of this but but a factory manual, and I thought it's so cool how how they're writing to someone and they're really telling you how to fix stuff. I mean, there's a lot of technical information in this book, and it's pretty much everything you need to know to repair these manuals, like a real factory manual should be, I think. And one of the things that really attracted me to working on these bikes is the measurement techniques that they use. I just thought it was fascinating. Like, for example, on this page, they're talking about how to measure the end play on the crown gear. And they've got this tool that they're showing here, as you can see. And I always thought that was neat, because most of the time when I'm measuring end play on a crown gear, I'm using my depth gauge, which is a screw type depth gauge. Well, like this, for example. This is a set that I bought at an estate sale, and it's the one that I use the most. Came with two anvils, and it's a beautiful set, and I use it all the time, and it's very accurate, and it has all these different probes that will go to different depths. I like it because I can keep two probes loaded up in the two different anvils, so I don't have to switch as often. And so I use that most of the time, but I thought, wouldn't it be neat to try to measure using the tool that they show in the manual? And I've always looked at that picture and I thought, oh, that's a neat tool. It looks so inaccurate. It doesn't look accurate when you look at it. They show it here in the transmission section also. And so I went on eBay and I searched around until I found something that closely resembles that tool. This particular tool is beautiful, made by Helios in Germany. It reads to 1/1000th of an inch. It has increments going from 0 to 8 inches in 25/1000ths of an inch. And there's a vernier scale that has 25 increments on it. So that's 1/1000th of an inch. And it's very similar to the tool that they have in the manual. It has that little curve on the tip. It has that broad tip at the bottom. The one that they show here it's got a really long anvil. It must be about 8 inches across. One side is short, one side's long. This one's probably about, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches across. But I cleaned it up and it's working really well. When I got it, it was pretty dirty and crusty. And so I cleaned it really well in solvent, and I also lapped it. And the way that I lapped it is I just set it to 0, exactly to 0, where the 0 and the 25 are pointing on the increments, locked it in place, and then I use my precision stone, which I have surface ground on the surface grinder, and then I just lap the bottom of it until what you end up with is just a mirror finish, where the level of the anvil and the level of the probe are exactly the same. And it's pretty darn accurate. I've measured many things with it. Like, for example, if I take a known distance of these parallels, which are 1 inch, and I measure down to the surface plate, and we look at the vernier, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, check this out. One of the things I also got on eBay is this cool magnifying glass. I didn't know what this was when I first got it. It came with a bunch of other stuff that I bought on eBay in the box, machinist tools. But then I was watching a video by Joe Pyszczynski, and he talks about it. And actually what it is it's a vernier magnifier. It's designed to stick onto your measuring tool like that so you can see the vernier clearly. And as you can see, that's right on 0 on the 1 inch mark. So it's pretty accurate. But I thought, that's neat. Now that I've got this tool, I thought, well, let's try to use it in the way that BMW is using it to measure some parts. So like a classic example would be to try to measure a final drive door, and you want to try to measure the depth of the pocket below the gasket surface. So you want to be able to put a depth gauge down there and touch that bottom where the pocket is, where the shim goes, and see how far down it is compared to the gasket surface. Well, the first thing, of course, is you want to be able to hold this because you can't really measure it when it's flopping around like that. And so I have this beautiful tool that was made by old Joe Groger. This is his style of tools. Probably has some of his original dirt on it. And it holds the door perfectly so that you can measure it. And these little 1-inch gauge blocks are perfect for measuring this, because in the book they show you using long parallels. I found that I always knock them over when I'm moving around, and so these little short ones are made on the surface grinder at 1 inch. And a gift from my friend Roy Reynolds was this beautiful parallel that Roy probably got it at McMaster Car or something like that, and then he drilled a hole in it, and the hole is designed to be used with the probe. So you just take your depth gauge probe, put that in the hole, and then you can use it to measure down to the surface that you want to measure to. So let's take a measurement here. And that measurement is 423.5. So the way that I got that is it's actually 2.423, but I subtracted the 2 inches because we got the parallel set up. Now let's try to use the vernier depth gauge and see what number we get. I can't fit the gauge into that hole, so I'm going to have to sort of improvise by hanging it over the edge. All right, what did we get before? 423.5. Let's see what this one is. Let's get out our magnifying glass. See if, I don't know if you can read that. I can't read into the screen, but let's see if I can read it. I can't read in the screen while I'm reading it. It's below 25. So now we just need to cruise across here and see what it lines up with. I'm going to say it's on the 423. Yeah. So we got the exact same number. So that's cool. I think that this is definitely a usable measurement tool, and it's truly a pleasure to use it. It's just the simplicity of not having the screw, I think, is neat. You know, you can just drop down and take the exact measurement that you need. And also, one of the things that always screwed me up, still screws me up on these, is that it's backwards. You know, it's reading backwards. It's reading from 10 to 1, whereas on a typical scale you're reading from 1 to 10. And I always, for some reason, mess that up. And you know, one of the other things you can do if you don't have a depth gauge is you can always measure using your calipers. As long as you've got a nice clean surface on the back here when this is set to 0, and you would lap it in exactly the same way that you would the depth gauge. You set this to 0, and then you, on your precision stone, you just lap this like that until you get a beautiful mirror finish on the bottom of your caliper. And you can even test that, you know, with some gauge blocks to see what you get. You can drop your depth probe down, the rod of the micrometer down in there, not a micrometer, but the caliper, sorry. And in this case, let's see, we're getting a different number here. We're getting 26. Yeah, it's clearly a 26. So a little bit different. Now my zero's off also. Let me make sure there's no dirt in there. Okay, now the zero's on. But I don't think that would have affected the measurement. Let me try it one more time. Yeah, now I got 29. So it's a little bit different. Anyway, I don't usually use that method. It's not as accurate as using a real depth gauge, but I just wanted to show you guys this this cool depth gauge that I got. I just dig it. I think it's neat, and I've always been fascinated by the one that was pictured in the book. And so here you go. Anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you later.